Good morning. We're here to discuss the great work that the detectives at the Orlando Police Department have accomplished in arresting over 50 fentanyl dealers. I can't emphasize how significant this is, considering that, like many communities across the country, this is taking lives. What these dealers are doing and what they're giving our citizens and the lives that are being lost in Central Florida and beyond is something that we have got to address. And the Orlando Police Department, about two and a half years ago, decided that we needed to do things a little different. We created a special enforcement division where the best of the Orlando Police Department, when it comes to addressing violent offenses, were put under one roof, working together to address our needs. And then beyond that, they themselves created what we now call our overdose response unit, overdose unit. They respond to any overdose that takes place here in the city of Orlando. These cases before were merely something that we would document because really there wasn't much that you could work on. They took it to another level. They have been able to track where the suppliers were coming from, what was happening when it comes to that, and 53 individuals have been arrested as a result of that. For every dose that gets sold out there or given to someone, you're literally potentially having someone who may be at risk of losing their lives, right? So for every dealer and for every opportunity that we've had to remove these individuals from our community, we could potentially have saved thousands of lives in the process. But it's because of them that we were able to do this. Sergeant Mara is going to come up here, if you would please, and he's going to explain what the unit has been able to accomplish. And then also the state attorney's office is here. They're going to explain how it is that they're working with us collaboratively in order to address this epidemic that is really, in all honesty, affecting all of us across our nation. Sergeant Mara.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sergeant Stephen Mara. It's S-T-E-P-H-E-N, last name M-A-R-R-A. I am the supervisor of our new Overdose Investigative Unit, and I just wanted to really quickly thank you, Chief. I really appreciate all your support and your belief and trust in us to create this unit that has never been at the Orlando Police Department before, and to trust in us to make it successful. So we conducted an operation called Operation Good Call. It resulted in 53 arrests of fentanyl dealers. All of the arrests that we made in this operation, again, are all just fentanyl dealers. And 9 of those arrests resulted directly from an overdose resulting in a death. So we responded out to an overdose. Unfortunately, the victim was deceased, and these detectives conducted their investigation and were able to find the supplier of those narcotics directly related to that death, and 9 of those 53 are directly related to deaths. 8 of the cases are directly related to overdoses as well, but thankfully they were able to be brought back and saved by Narcan. So 8 of those, and then the other rest 36, I believe, are numbers that we got from confidential informants or other phone numbers that victims of overdoses gave us to try and help the community and get fentanyl off the street. So how it worked, so detectives made the calls to every single person on that board. So what's unique about this operation is every single person on that board, these detectives called themselves on the phone, set up a drug deal for fentanyl, and then also made the arrest. So just real quickly, to talk about fentanyl and how important it is and how potent it is. 30 milligrams of heroin is a lethal dose of a narcotic. Just 3 milligrams of fentanyl. So you can just see just from the image, just almost a few specks versus what heroin is. It's 100 times more potent than morphine. So what's happening is drug dealers are dealing fentanyl instead of heroin to prey on the addicts to become more addicted to its fentanyl's potency so that they want and call more and making the dealers profit more. So again, here we called the Operation Good Call because when the detectives would get a phone number and they would call up one of these dealers, as soon as they had the dealer agreeing to a fentanyl transaction, they then said, okay, we have a good call, and these men suited up, and we went out there to try and make the arrest. One of the other 53 is a arrest that resulted in the seizure of 50 bags of fentanyl. His name is Jose Rivas, and again, he's on the board, and it was all set up by us simply calling him on the phone, setting up a drug transaction. So I now want to call up Corporal Gonzalez to come up and just take you through a couple of slides to show you how we go about some of this operation.
Thank you, Sergeant Mera. So this case was one of our follow-ups to the Narcan deployment cases, and our main objectives when we follow up to these cases is, one, to meet with the victim and the families in order to guide them to start the healing process and rehab process, and two is to try to get the dealer as quickly as possible off the streets, just because we want to prevent other overdoses which could potentially lead to deaths. So we made this particular case, detectives and I met with the victim and the family. Family was extremely concerned about their loved one because they had overdosed multiple times, and they believed that the next overdose was their loved one was going to be gone forever. We obtained the information of the dealer, and we pretty much started the conversation to try to set them up. So what you will see in a moment is a conversation of the drug deal. I will hit play and then I will talk about it because it is going to be in Spanish. So do I just hit play?
Just hit spacebar again.
Spacebar?
Yep.
Dime.
¿Cuántas son?
Papi, 100 para abajo, ¿a cuánto está? ¿A 5?
No,
¿A cuánto?
a 10.
¿A 10?
Sí,
Coño, pai. Ok, pero son más grandecitas.
sí.
Ok, pues dame 10 para abajo y 2 para arriba.
Sorry.
So what you just saw and heard there, it's pretty much us discussing prices with the drug deal and the order that we wanted to purchase. The dealer agrees to come into a predetermined location that we set up, and then the good call is made. Once the good call is made, we effect the rest, which will be the next video that you see.
Spacebar.
Look at me.
Ready when you are.
I cannot tell if it looks like the door is unlocked. Seatbelt is on, compliant.
Hey, get in this. Well, get in.
What is it?
Let me know.
Okay? Looks like the door's unlocked, seatbelt is on, compliant. You good. Stop.
Look away from me. Don't move. Keep your hand up. We're going to the ground. Put your hand behind your back now. Put your hand behind your back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corporal Gonzalez. So again, you just saw one of just the 53 arrests that we made, which resulted in 50 bags of fentanyl being seized. What's most important to remember here is the countless lives being saved by this operation, the countless hours these men spent to improve the safety of our city. The work is also extremely dangerous. Not only did some of these dealers show up with firearms, violent criminal histories, some of them were convicted felons, But day in and day out, these detectives are dealing with fentanyl day in and day out, which is dangerous all within itself. Yet they face these dangers head on. And there's a human component. These detectives have all gone to know the victims in the case, as well as their struggles and challenges. And still, these men go above and beyond to connect them to services and try to turn lives around. The work is not for the faint of heart, but it is the work of the Orlando Police Department. Thank you very much for your time. We'd like to bring in Mr. Zamora from the State Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alfredo Zamora, and I'm one of the Deputy Chief Assistant State Attorneys at the State Attorney's Office for Orange and Osceola counties. As overdose deaths continue to rise at an unprecedented rate, it is more important than ever that we come together as a community to stop the spread of dangerous drugs such as fentanyl in our community. The State Attorney's Office is committed to working with our law enforcement partners and our community partners to hold dealers responsible and help people suffering from addiction find treatment. It is because of the quick action and thorough investigations performed by these newly formed overdose units that we are able to identify and prosecute the people who are selling these dangerous drugs in our community. We commend the Orlando Police Department's steadfast work and Operation Good Call. Without their tireless efforts, the prosecution of those seeking to bring harm to our community would not be possible. We look forward to a continuing partnership between our agencies that will ensure and maintain safety in our community for all. Thank you.
So we've been tracking all the numbers of overdoses, and last year, just in the city of Orlando, there were 75 overdoses that ended up being fatal. 63 of those 75 were fentanyl related. I believe there was a graph that was given out to everyone here, and what that graph shows is not only nationwide, but obviously in the city of Orlando as well, overdoses are just on the rise. They're on the rise everywhere. And not only are overdoses total on the rise, the percentage of those overdoses being fentanyl related are on the rise as well. And that's why this unit was formed. And our goal is to not only hold these dealers accountable, we have 2 first-degree murder grand jury indictments for 2 of those subjects on the board, as well as our goal is to reduce the amount of deaths in total in the city of Orlando.
Thank you. We'll open it up for questions. Sergeant Maher, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Any questions?
You said 75 overdoses total. How many of them, again, were fentanyl related?
63.
Can you talk about what kind of results you've seen so far in overdoses since the operation started?
Yes, sir. So we don't exactly have the numbers to date this year because we have to wait on the medical examiner's report to officially say if this was an overdose related to fentanyl. So it's about 6 to 8 weeks backtracked. But to this date right now that we have, again, 6 to 8 weeks back, we have 15 overdose deaths. 14 of those are fentanyl related. So you can see the percentage is just getting closer and closer. But again, we're at 15 and we're here in June.
Can you also explain the process that we had in place before, in most cases, most law enforcement agencies, when we respond to an overdose case versus the way we're doing it now?
Yes, sir. So, just like the chief said, across the country, law enforcement agencies, it's usually a homicide call and to handle. So before, our homicide unit would respond, and they respond to any deaths. Obviously, that includes overdose deaths. And they were there to deem it that it wasn't anything other than an overdose. And again, like the chief said, it would be documented, and if we had information we could work on, it would get passed on to the narcotics unit. We felt, being formerly in the narcotics unit, that this was such a specialized investigation of overdoses, and there's so complex you have to work with the medical examiner's office to get toxicologies, proximate causes of death. We felt it was so specialized that we needed our own unit, and now what we do is these gentlemen respond out from the start to the finish. They start the investigation and go all the way from the body cam footage you saw to the arrest.
I want to add something we can answer in Spanish too. What is your message to the people that are still out there in the city with this, selling these drugs?
Yeah, so our message would be we are now have an official unit where we're dedicated to helping out the community, getting this drug off of the street, and holding these dealers accountable who are profiting off of people losing their lives. And that's, our dedication to them. And that's
And
what
now in Spanish. See, I'm testing his Spanish now today.
Yes, yeah. Bueno, el mensaje que yo quiero decir es que a todas las personas que están vendiendo drogas es que están causando mucho dolor a las familias y que la próxima vez que ellos piensan vender drogas, hacer sus $20, $50, que también pueden obtener un cargo de primer grado de muerte. Entonces que lo piensen antes de vender drogas.
Gonzalo, ya que estás ahí, si se puede, ¿puedes hablar del riesgo de esta operación? Los vimos interactuando haciéndoles la trampa, ¿no? Para que caigan. ¿Qué tan riesgoso? Y si esto se concentra en puntos específicos de la ciudad o la ciudad completa.
Bueno, es demasiado riesgoso, como vieron en el video. Así es que pasan. Obviamente el José Rivas, el que fue arrestado en el video, no fue un sospechoso peligroso en ese momento, pero hay varios casos que traen pistolas, que son convicted felons y que tienen una historia muy, muy larga, violenta del pasado. Pero sí, el riesgo está arriba, pero es la única manera de atrapar a estos vendedores de la fentanila.
Thank you. So real quick, let me just highlight something that happened here that was very, very special when it comes to this unit. We could have done business as usual. We could have had a drug unit and a homicide unit that only went out, documented potential overdose, and carried on. They develop a path that now gives these victims and their family members the opportunity for closure, the opportunity to hold accountable these individuals that are killing people in our community. But it was them who came up with the brilliant idea of setting this up. And let me tell you, me personally, I was one of those that I was like, what do you mean you want to go to homicide school? What do you mean it's an investment? But they have proven that thinking outside of the box can yield very, very positive results. And they are saving lives. They are saving lives. So for that, I just want to publicly say how proud I am of the great work that they have done. And of course, with our partners, the state attorney's office, working with our detectives to manage these cases so that the ones that we can hold accountable for the death of someone, we can actually formulate charges against and hold them in court through that process. So anyways, any more questions? Sí, ok. So, obviamente, podíamos hacer el trabajo de nosotros de la misma manera que lo hacíamos antes, que era, quizás los investigadores iban a una escena de una persona que tuvo un overdose y desafortunadamente era lo único que podíamos documentar. Ahora tenemos un equipo, el cual se dedica a no solamente responder para ver qué fue lo que sucedió, pero buscar la manera de identificar la persona que fue responsable de la muerte, la causa de la muerte de esa persona. Es algo lo cual no se ha visto en el pasado. Son pocas las agencias que hoy en día están haciendo algo similar. Ellos son las personas responsables por hacer esto posible y estoy muy orgulloso de trabajar con ellos por esta razón.
I don't have any information supporting that. Any other questions?
First, overall, you obviously been a spike in crime. You guys are thinking out of the box on this. How are you guys going to think about that to make sure that you guys stop this violent crime?
So it's going to have to take the community coming together to work together in order for us to be most effective. Law enforcement, the judicial system can't do it alone. We have got to have the business community, the key members of our community, the clergy, all of those things that we have talked in the past. We have got to bring them together to address these issues. And our community is not immune to the issues that we're seeing in other parts of the country. But aside from coming together, we have got to put in place something that is sustainable, something that we can measure, something that we can have in place for a long time, because we can go and saturate an area and reduce certain activities. We're good at doing that. But how beautiful it would be if we could create a path where we can say, that's what happened in the past and we have never seen it again since then. I think that's where, and it's going to take it's going to take a process to develop a path to yield that. But again, it's going to take everyone coming together in order to achieve that. Well, everyone, thank you very much. And if you have any questions specific to any member here, please feel free to ask them. Okay? Thank you.